So we are continuing under the Article 352. The President can declare a national emergency when the security of India or part of it threatened by war or external aggression or armed rebellion. I have already discussed what is external aggression or armed rebellion, etc. And also for taking as an anticipatory measures, like to safeguard ourselves, to prepare ourselves. For that purpose also we can declare the President can declare the emergency. Like, we are not going to engage in the war. If the war is going to happen soon, then of course the country will certainly get into the emergency, and we get prepared for that. Okay, when a national emergency is declared on the grounds of war or external aggression, it is known as external emergency. And on the other hand, when it is declared on the grounds of armed rebellion, it is known as internal emergency. That's something very easy to understand, I believe. Okay, the term armed rebellion is inserted from the 44th Amendment. Before this term, this was known as the internal stimulus. Okay, so the term armed rebellion is a keynote. If you are preparing for exams, this can be considered. Okay, the 44th Amendment Act of the Constitution added this word that's called as armed rebellion into the Article 352. So in previously it was written as internal resistance, internal disturbance. Now it is armed rebellion. So there are three kinds of emergency or Constitution is dealing with. That is national emergency, and another one is called as constitutional emergency, and the third one is called as financial emergency. These three emergencies are dealt in the Part 18th of the Constitution, from Article 352 to Article 360. So President is the supreme head, or enjoys the power to declare the emergency by the advice of the Council of Ministers. And during the emergency, so many things happens. Everything will turn upside down. So many things will happen. I know that. I will discuss what all things will happen. And above the constitutional, super constitutional powers will be there. So the 44th Amendment Act added armed rebellion, changed the word internal resistance to armed rebellion. And there are two in the national emergency. There are two kinds of emergency, that is external and internal. The external means anything externally happen, like external aggressions or war. Internal emergency means internally happening. For example, internal disturbances, political revolts, or challenges against the current ruling government. Okay, like those things. Okay, now I'm going to give you some examples when our country engaged in national emergency, particularly national emergency. First example is if India and Pakistan openly it's giving you some kinds of source. Okay, some kinds of examples to understand when this country will undergo a national emergency. If India and Pakistan openly accept that they will use armed forces against each other, or simply war. For example, recently the Operation Sindoor was happened. Okay, so many operations happened between India and Pakistan, or India and China, or India and Myanmar, or any other our neighbor. So during those time, India can impose the national emergency. Okay, if there is no formal declaration that there will be armed forces used against the country, if there is no formal declaration that there will be armed forces, that's called as forces, and against the country is called as is external emergency. And actually this is an example. Okay, we are trying to give you an example to understand what is a national emergency. For example, India, our neighbor, whether it's Pakistan or China, whichever country, is going to engage in war using armed forces each other, using the military compact. So in those times, our country can impose the national emergency. And then the second thing is called as there is no formal declaration that there will be armed forces used against the country's external emergency. That is like without the sudden attacks, the sudden attacks, that immediate attacks, without having any kind of a formal previous notice. So let's continue our class. Okay, our video, because of the noise of the background, because of the rain. Okay, so anyway, let's continue our video. So let's have a quick fact regarding an amendment, that is the 38th Amendment of the Constitution. In that of 1975, it is said that the emergency which is declared by the President cannot be challenged in any court of justice. So but because of it create immune to some kind of judicial review, or actually it is called a judicial review, because during the emergency, whether it was declared on without having any relevant reasons, the government can impose because of some kind of oppressing the opposition or something like that. Anything the ruling party or the government can do that. So in order to challenge that, the opposition parties or opposition peoples, or the people of this country as a wholly, cannot challenge in any court of justice. It was the amendment that was happened in made in 38th Constitutional Amendment Act, okay, in 1975, but it was revoked or changed to the original version by the 44th Amendment Act of 1978 because it was the period of the dark age of our Indian history. So anyway, let's continue the sessions. Okay, we are going to discuss the approval and the duration of emergency. We came into realization what is an emergency, how it can be imposed, okay, who is responsible for that by the advice of Council of Ministers, Prime Ministers, and the Council of Ministers, and when it will be imposed. Okay, what are the grounds? Okay, now we are going to discuss about the parliamentary approval and duration. So emergency cannot be like unanimously or like authoritarian, like it is not like decided on a person interest. It is not decided on some group of ministers have said okay, we can go for this. No, it is not going to work like that. So anyway, so there are because this is a democracy, so everything has a checks. So parliamentary approval and duration. The proclamation of emergency must be approved by both the houses of parliament within 1 month from the date of issue. For example, if the President of India currently right now on this day, I don't know, like June 1st or July 1st or July 2nd, July 1st, impose the through an ordinance or through any kind of any kind of an act, he has imposed that this country is going into emergency. So from the day on, first onwards, the emergency is imposed, but the declared emergency has to be or must be approved, get the approval from the parliament. That is means parliament means what? Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha within 1 month. That is within the 1 month it has to be approved. Then only the emergency can be continued. Otherwise it will be revoked because our country is like that. However, if the proclamation of emergency is issued at a time when the Lok Sabha has been dissolved or the dissolution takes place during the period of 1 month without approving the proclamation, then the proclamation survives until 30 days from the first sitting of the Lok Sabha after a strict constitution, provided the Rajya Sabha has the meantime approved it. Okay, so you know that our constitution, our Samvidhan or our system is running in a it's a bicameral system, and it's running like it's not like unilaterally, or the elections are happening to the both the Sabha, so Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, or it is not happening like at a time. It happens in a different tenure. Okay, and the tenure of the Lok Sabha is 5 years and Rajya Sabha is 6 years. So the elections to the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha happens in a very different scenario, different setup, and one is direct and another one is indirect, and their process is different. So but Lok Sabha, we all envy on Lok Sabha. We want keep an eye on Lok Sabha elections or the general election. So after the the term tenure, that is 5 years. Okay, so recently 2024 was the last election. So from 2024 to 2029, that is the period of the Lok Sabha. During those periods, if an emergency was imposed, nothing is going to be happen. There is no hindrances, there is no difficulties. If the Lok Sabha approved, then it's okay. Rajya Sabha approved, then it's okay. But if the emergency is going to be declared in a session where the Lok Sabha can be dissolved, right, because of the no confidence motion, right? Okay, or like that. For example, if the Lok Sabha couldn't create like a majority government, or there is no majority, there is any political party can prove the majority, or they cannot there is no coalition government, or the government the election came into a result which is having a void election, or like that, or the current political party, the Lok Sabha is dissolved in any manner. There are so many options where the Lok Sabha can be dissolved. So if the emergency is but the president and Rajya Sabha is still working, okay, but Lok Sabha is not. The Lok Sabha is dissolved right now. Lok Sabha, there is no Lok Sabha meetup. There is no member of parliament. There is no MPs meetups. Okay, so parliament is not dysfunctional, but it's only half. But Rajya Sabha and the president is working. Okay, in that time, what can do is that how about the emergency? If the person is imposed emergency, it will give an extension until the Lok Sabha, the next Lok Sabha reconstitute, and from the day 1 of the reconstitution of the Lok Sabha to the day 30, the proclamation will last without having any kind of objections. That is our rule. So but there's an important clause is that Rajya Sabha has to be approved it already, then only this will extend. If it is not, the Rajya Sabha is not going to approve, then the bill become emergency become nullified. So it's works like that. So the idea is simple, the objective is simple. The Lok Sabha is currently dissolved, then the declared emergency, the ongoing emergency, will extend until the next Lok Sabha constitutes, from the day first of the next Lok Sabha constitution and until the next 30th day of the constitution, okay, the Lok Sabha. So until 30th day, it has to, the issued emergency will extend, and until between those time, Lok Sabha has to approve it. Lok Sabha disapprove it, because approval means what? Approval is not like just simply saying yes. No, the bill will be introduced, or the ordinance will be introduced, the Lok Sabha, and the member of parliaments will discuss each other, and so many committees it will go through, and then finally they will approve it, or they will give it for voting, and if they get the majority, then it is called as approval. That's called as approval. That's so many procedures are there. It's not like easy. Okay. So this is how the approval happens. So if approved by both the houses, the emergency continues for 6 months and can be extended to indefinite period with an approval of the parliament for every 6 months. So for this is the second thing. The first thing I have discussed, and the second thing is that there is no particular or definite period that this country can undergoes emergency. Okay, if the President of India declared the emergency right now, and during this emergency, like within 30 days of within a month, what happens was that in both the parliaments, like for example, the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, both the houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, has approved, then it can go up to 30 days, 6 months. So it can be extended up to 6 months. So the emergency will continue until that time, and after it will end, the tenure of the first initial declared emergency will end. Before that, what happens was that if the parliament, that is Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, if they give the approval again, then the proclaimed emergency can be extended again for another 6 months. So like that, it can improve up to 2 years or 4 years, and indefinite. Okay, so every resolution approving the proclamation of emergency of its continuance must be passed by either house of the parliament by a special majority. So there is something called as simple majority and special majority. By imposing the emergency, when the president has imposed the emergency, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, the speakers will put forward. If they get the majority, the simple majority in the Lok Sabha and the simple majority in the Rajya Sabha, then the bill has approved, and the emergency will continue until 6 months. Okay, after finishing the 6 months, if the emergency has to be increased, so what to do means, again there is a need of approval, but in that approval they need a special majority. Special majority is not like simply like what's meant by simple majority. If there are people who are presenting the current members, like half plus one, like for example 543 or 545, for example 540 is our Lok Sabha strength. If the majority, if they get for example 270, okay, 271 votes, then it's called a simple majority. Special majority means 3/4. There are so many other things are there. That is called as special majority is needed. Okay, and revocation of proclamation. Okay, when the proclamation can be revoked is going to be taught in the next video. So until this, I believe you understood what is emergency, when emergency can be imposed, who is responsible for it, until what time the emergency can be extended, and the grounds the government of India or the president can impose the emergency. Okay, so thank you.